Over toward the door. Okay.
Okay, so welcome to Hashtag Coffee. My name's Corey. This is my buddy Greg. And this morning we got Seth from the Dividend Report on, and I'm pretty fucking stoked about that. How you doing, Seth? Oh. Yeah, sorry. I just had YouTube just started playing Dr. Fauci at me.
Don't listen to that guy.
Oh, no. He knows things. Anyway, so yeah, we're huge fans of the Dividend Report, of which Seth is the face and speaking voice behind. That was the worst intro in the history of podcasts. So I'm excited to have you on. Yesterday we watched Barack Obama. That's funny. What time is it? Fucking 10 a.m. Barack Obama eulogized Mr. John Lewis yesterday. We did a little watch party. It was just, a bunch of people that remember the Obama years just kind of bawling their eyes out for an hour. That was a thing that happened.
Remember when we had a president with dignity and grace?
It's shocking, right?
And like warm heart and humanity.
Right? I caught a clip of George Bush, and I was like, "Oh, that guy sounds like a president." Wait, what?
Right.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
We've yeah.
Preach. Yeah,
absolutely. I like that we get like the full spectrum motion of like people moving in behind you.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Thanks, guys.
I like it.
Oh, still more to come. So
cool. Well, that makes it better. Yeah, this is. Oh, look, Brian died. We make this joke all the time. Brian, did you die?
Sir, Brian. Yeah, sir, please contain your trouble puffs.
Yeah, exactly. Brian is horrible at relaxing. He's very bad at it. He's just big and dumb.
Yeah, he's not that fancy.
Is he the Doge dog? No, but sometimes when he looks over his shoulder at you like this,
he can look like that.
He's like the older, slightly smarter, minusculely less goofy version of the Doge dog. Speaking of which, like we were talking a little bit off air, Seth, I need to have you come on the new Chirpcast. I started a podcast for Chirp because I'm running their community development. And of course, they're going to be a social media platform that instead of asking the government to force them to pay you, for your data, we're just going to do it from the jump. We're going to pay 50% of all ad revenue out that comes to us back to the community. So you're going to need to start a channel there. You're going to own it, which is going to be awesome. You're going to be able to create revenue out of it, which is going to be awesome. But I'm interviewing everybody that's going to own channels. So I'm just telling you that you're going to. But in that conversation, we can go all the way down however many cryptocurrency rabbit holes you want to go down because I am a nerd. Well, when
That's
there's
our-
science stories, we add them. But like when John Lewis got eulogized yesterday and Barack Obama dropped some fucking bombs, we're gonna play that later. By the way, we do the news as we need to do the news. The other thing we need to do that I just jumped in because I was all like, "You gotta watch John Lewis stance, god damn it!" We actually start every show now with gratitudes, but you continue your thought, and then I'll get us back on track. Your audio just went super low.
Super deep.
But it was. We do not separate them. We will talk about science and big fucking rockets, kind of in the same basket of goodness.
What's happening right now? Now he's muted.
Oh, that's
now,
not good.
Now you're muted, Seth.
Fred just said, I saw something about that in your Patreon. Is Chirp running now? No, it's not. But the Chirp podcast is running now.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's fixed. You're good.
Sorry about all the chaos. They're done. So I'm free to
No, you're good.
free to
You're
fuck
good.
up the show all on my own now. I don't need any help
Cool.
from those guys. Oh,
There
hey. Bigfoot 2020. Make America believe again. Yes.
Maba.
So yeah. So thank you, Michi Freeman, for understanding me as a human being and getting me exactly the right shirt. That's
Right.
a cool thing.
Hey, Doreen just shared this out. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching us on Twitter, if you're watching on Seth's YouTube, please give this a share. There's 15 people watching on Facebook right now. Give us a share if you could. We would appreciate it a lot. And of course, if you're not following Seth yet on the Twitter machine, which is where he hangs out, he's at Dividend Report there. You can find him all over my page. He's an exceptionally good follow. So yeah, we do, to answer your question, we do technology, science, like kind of whatever stories have come around over the course of the week, just to try and nerd out a little bit. And of course, sometimes I derail us and go all the way down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole. And like our family here is like very patient with me in that regard. So
Yes, we are.
that's my gratitude for this morning. I'll start us off. I'm really grateful that you guys put up with my weird nerdy shit.
Yeah, that's safe. It's cool, and I want to get it, but Corey, there's download this app. Oh, you got to sign up for that, and I get apped over. Like I can't keep up with how many things are going on, so that's challenging because I'm old. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I posted something a little bit about this just recently because this is a fun science story. If you haven't heard of GPT-3 yet, it's the latest iteration out of OpenAI, which is what Elon Musk started to basically try and make sure that the AI or super AI that gets created is actually for everyone, not just for one government or one entity, which of course would be exceptionally problematic. So they've been kind of creating various versions. This is, of course, the third version, and basically they put trillions of words and sentences into training this neural net, like basic kind of machine learning kind of stuff, right? But it bootstrapped the speed that it did it, and now you can basically ask it literally anything, and it will be able to give you responses back to that. Like it'll finish anybody's sentences. It'll it'll finish even like scientific things or whatever. Like it's understanding things semantically in a way that would immediately pass the Turing test. It's really, really good, basically, right? But the thing that I saw that really freaking freaked me out is that a guy posted on Twitter that he was training algorithms like this that could almost get as close semantically, but it took 8 or 9 days, right? And using the same system, he was able to train the same kind of machine learning algorithms in 7 seconds. So it's a 38,000 time improvement over 4 years, which is fucking bonkers. Now, the reason why I bring that up in relation to cryptocurrency is that they're now creating these things called DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations that actually run on cryptocurrency. They run on tokens that imagine taking like any bureaucratic function, just one, right? Greg gets Medicare, along these parameters, right? You can put that onto a blockchain, put it onto a permissionless, trustless system that doesn't require any humans whatsoever, right? And you can have it be hundreds of times more efficient than the best human system out there, and no one will ever touch it, and it'll work automatically, and it'll work forever. Times and scale that up as many times, as many things as you possibly want, to the point where I honestly feel like politics might be over in 20 years. So it's not just like money's going to get revolutionized. It's not just that business systems are going to get revolutionized. Every way that we come together and organize our resources and ourselves, I think is going to get completely and totally transformed. And then you plug super AI into that, and it gets just fucking bananas. I don't know.
It's interesting. Like I always, there's a sci-fi series of books that I always go back to, and it really isn't directly related to this idea, but it's an idea that comes up and has weight. Kim Stanley Robinson, Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars. What actually happens is the companies that get us there are called meta-nationals, where they're as powerful as countries, and eventually countries end up subcontracting to one of the 7 meta-national corporations, like the blocks. Like we think of the Eastern Bloc, the Western Bloc. There's like there's a Tesla block and a Google block. So countries do end up depending on them so heavily that they become the real power. So I think, and that's near future. Kim Stanley Robinson basically set the beginning of the mission to colonize Mars in like 2024. So very close to now, and it's accurate so far, right? He's been right about some things about how fast and who is going to get us there. Like I'm watching the launch yesterday of the Atlas with the new Mars rover, and it's going to be collecting core samples and then leaving them in little plasticized containers on the ground. And then 3 years from now, we're going to launch another probe that's going to go out to collect those samples and bring them back to Earth. I kind of think it's possible that by the time we get there, people are going to be able to walk around and pick those samples up and bring them home. Like it may be happening so fast that becomes an obsolete mission before it actually comes to pass.
So yeah, I was talking to Greg about this as well. Like, we're seeing the BFR, the serial number 5 static test was yesterday, right? They should be doing their 150 meter hop test this week, which is mental, right? So they're in a position where the first fully functional BFR could be orbital or suborbital within the year. And the whole target is to make sure that the next Martian insertion window, which is 2 years from now, that they can, I think they're going to try and throw one of the BFRs at Mars, at least as a test run this cycle. So then it'll be 2026 probably where we actually see human beings jetted over there, which would be crazy.
They could send some sort of atmospheric processor that makes fuel unmanned. You know, they could roboticize fuel making capacity. It's out there now just to park it and you know, a weather station just sitting upright on the Martian surface to start, you know, finding out atmospheric components, and you know, it's just with a set of instruments. Yeah, it would be worth the trip. So
yeah, they'll totally. They've got fuel makers designed for Mars already. So like the likelihood that they'll have one running out there is probably pretty high.
Yeah, assuming it doesn't blow up again. Yeah, but you know, like I always like to remember Mr. Beals, Andrew Beals, that NASA blew up a whole bunch of shit before we got it right. Like we were consistently blowing up rockets for 5 years before Al Shepard, you know, flew in space the first time. So blowing stuff up is actually, you know, it's kind of a norm for engineering.
Fail fast, and they've been doing that. Go ahead, Seth.
I was just notified by my viewers that my microphone has not been working this entire time, so I'm going to just double check here and see if that is.
Oh no!
If that's fixed at all.
Well, you're working in the StreamYard stream.
We can hear you.
All right, very good, very good. Yeah, okay, looks like I fixed it. All right, so thank you guys for your patience there. This is the first stream that I've done in 4 months. After Yang dropped out, I dealt with it pretty seriously. He was my wave that I was riding, so I'm having to come through and kind of fix everything. So thank you guys for your patience. Another thing that you guys are talking about right now that I really want to press on is the idea of exponentiality. I kind of was like, well, clearly we're going to talk about the lack of respect for science in the general population right now. But I mean, I think it's
fuck them.
Oh yeah, why do we need to talk about the general population? It's not like they have an effect on anything.
I mean, yeah, no, it's a problem, but like, and I've been trying to pivot to get out the vote stuff recently, and really trying to focus on winning the battles that we can win. So like the news segment of the show now is like, okay, here is welcome to coffee. Here's the news. The news fucking sucks. End of news. And then just do something useful. Yeah. Right. And like people that are anti-science, when we could be talking about exponentiality and saying words like exponentiality, I do not want to fucking talk about the dummies. Just give me a minute. Just for give me 10 minutes. Give me an hour of Seth talking about exponentiality. That's all I want.
I feel like even with the dummies, anyone has you can just say, hey, look at what's happened in the past 20 years and just recognize that this curve is a phenomenon that exists. I mean, that's, I think, one scientific thing that people can kind of think about if you frame it the right way, because it exists in so many different areas. And right now we're seeing the failures of our ability to kind of grapple with this phenomenon and the trends that COVID-19 is having across the country. This is an exponential curve, and we're not fundamentally equipped to deal with that kind of progress. We have to start equipping ourselves with that perception to see what's about to come down the road in the exact ways that you guys are both talking about. Greg saying by the time this rover gets to Mars and starts picking up the rocks, we're going to be even further ahead in that pursuit is exactly right. How do you guys feel that the perception of science has shifted through generations? Greg, are you I'm guessing Corey's Gen X.
Yeah, I'm last year boomer, 1964. So I'm on the cusp of boomer and Gen X.
Gotcha. Okay.
Early adopter of the internet, right? I was the first kid on my block to have I had a proto blog. I had a thing where I wrote every day and I put inline links in the text, and I just did that. And about a year later, I heard the term blog for the first time. I was like, oh, so apparently I've been blogging. So I was early on that. But as far as I think the problem is critical thinking skills. Like the teachers that I had, the good teachers that I had some shitty teachers too, but the best teachers that I had were the ones that taught us how to think. You know, specifically a local legendary teacher here in Pasco County, and I'm absolutely sure Virginia Ruppert had him as a teacher as well, and probably some others in the thread, was Ron Eckstein. He was my advanced placement American history teacher, and I had him for a year, and no true and false, no fill in the blank, no multiple choice questions. Every quiz, every test in his class was an essay test. And his reasoning, and he told us on day one, I don't want to find out what you don't know. I want to find out what you know. So his final exam in his class was 4 questions, right? And it was, if I remember, it was compare the economic policies of the Monroe and Lincoln administrations. Holy shit. My answer was 6 pages long, right? And so but I think teachers that do that set me up for a lifetime of critical thinking and really delving into meaningful articles, meaningful data. I also think that part of what's in play here is we've made it too hard for people to take 2 hours out of their day and learn something important. Like, nobody has time to do anything but catch the headlines on whatever their news vehicle of choice is. Nobody has time to sit and listen to an hour of TED Talks or podcasts by people that are thinking in new and different ways. And I think that affects young people absolutely every bit as much as it does older people. Like, there's just, once you're out of school and working, if you're going to raise a family, you're not going to find that time anywhere. We're lucky, and we're proud, swaggering nerds because we have time to be. That's what's different. We have the time, and that's because we've worked hard to make a life where we have the time.
Right.
I don't see younger people being able to do that now, and
Right.
I don't think that's actually. I don't think the school system set out to fuck over kids in this way. But I think that keeping people so busy they don't have time to learn new things and think new ways is a happy result for those that control our economy and our politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're not willing to change it because it's working for them.
Right. And I mean, I've heard that even down to the changing of the class bell has been like an institutionalized kind of cue to tell students, hey, this is when you're going to move to the next, it's time for lunch in the factory line. Like, it's set up to teach people
Right.
how to be good workers, not necessarily good critical thinkers. And you bringing up the fact that, a good teacher is worth their weight in gold because they can transcend those institutionalized boundaries. And then we see the ways that we treat teachers, compensate teachers, and generally regard them. Teachers are signing death waivers right now. What does that say about how we respect them in our society and how our generations are growing up? Corey, did you go to school in Canada?
Yeah. And I mean, it's largely in Canada. It's basically the same, right? It's a function of sort of an 18th century imperialist ethic, right? Like you're basically just teaching people exactly, whether it's in a factory or as a functionary writing in a ledger. You need basic math, basic language skills. So that you can do the computer work, basically, right before computers were even a thing, and we haven't really adapted past that. And going back to exponentiality, which is just, I love saying that word now because I don't think I ever have before.
That's a good word.
It is. What they're training kids for now, like even if they got to be really, really good at this right now, they're training kids for a world that will not exist.
Right.
In 5 years, not 10, 5 years, right? And we're seeing how quickly, with the pandemic, how quickly everything Yang said was going to happen started to happen the second there was any pressure, right? Jobs go right out the window. Everyone starts working from home. Whole sectors are going dark. One thing I wanted to add to what Greg said, and I agree with him, is that. We have joking wars about whether Sasquatch is real all the time, right? By the way, cats dive bombing the video is completely totally off my fucking love that.
Not my chair.
No, do it. It's so good.
No, she's like scratching up the chair and it's just
that's
ruining
good.
it.
Who is that, by the way?
This is Cleo. She's the one that we raised from a little bottle, and she likes to get up on shoulders. Yeah, we found her next to a construction site when she was just like this big.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
And I want to get Fred's comment here in a second. But yeah, so it always is our it's our avenue to get into the epistemological problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we know, it's how we know it. Chris Hayes actually re-released a podcast he had with a guy who was talking about that and like how it basically feeds into the death of science. And a huge issue that I see, which is why I'm ruthless online with people that spread misinformation, conspiracy theories or whatever, right? I'll family or no, I'll cut them out of my life completely online. Like, you have my phone number, you're gone forever online. Because now, basically, if you say the dumbest thing that you could possibly imagine, it gets amplified on Twitter and they elect you president, right? Mm-hmm. Because groups of dummies, and I'm sorry this sounds mean, but not sorry enough to stop, right? Groups of people that are saying things that are provably false can come together and reinforce each other, and because we're tribal monkeys, that works, right? Suddenly it seems entirely plausible that all of these ridiculous things can be true, right? To the point where it's killing people now. Like, Herman Cain is dead because of this, right? This dysfunction. You can I think you probably add 130,000 people minimum to that total, because we weren't listening to the experts right off the bat when they were telling us. Even in New York, where they started pretty early, like when I knew as a dumb guitar playing human being exactly what New York had to do because I could read a trend chart, they took another 3 weeks to do it, which is incredible, right? And then we still, as a country, haven't and won't. So to me, that death of science, or that death of sort of the understanding of it, comes of the fact that, like, if I have an opinion, I could just say my opinion, and Greg can say, "Yep, Corey's right," and Brian back there can be like, "Oh, I fucking think that Sasquatch is a moonbeam too." Like, it doesn't matter. And then and you guys all see it on social media, like the dumbest things you've ever seen in your fucking life.
Well, I'm watching people today, right? Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook all banned the collection of idiot doctors standing on the steps wherever they were, talking about hydrochloroquine, right? I'm watching today, people are screen capping themselves, videoing their screen of that video and then reposting it, right? Oh, they can't stop the truth. And I just...
Yeah, so that's really interesting. There are the groups of people who will probably not take a vaccine when it reaches the market because they don't trust our institutions. Those same people are enhancing and giving a platform to that doctor talking about hydroxychloroquine, who also believes that, like, demon semen is the cause for mental illness or something like that. So that is a fundamental breakdown of... all right, well, I gotta maintain my positive energy here for as much as I can. One of the
how's that going? So?
Not very well. It's been a hard few months, but one of the senators or congresspeople during the hearings did a pretty good job expressing the point. This is something I think that they're really trying to get their heads around, the modern institution of technology. And what they said is that, just saying something misleading on the internet is not really the thing that we're trying to crack down on. Part of the problem is that the algorithms and the financial incentive naturally results in the propagation of that material, the spread of that material, because it drives outrage, it drives attention. And so you have a financial incentive, and it will be a self-propagating, recurring event, and we have to tackle it from that perspective if we want to tackle the larger kind of general phenomenon of the spread of misinformation, because you can have a foreign country, a foreign entity, game that algorithm for their own and at the end of the day, Twitter or these industries, they only care about increasing profit for their shareholders at the end of the day. Yeah. So
I think there's a weird parallel there in pop music, right? That there is some really, really fantastic music getting made, and most of the people that I consider to be making that music are making it in their homes, in barns. They're going on little tours in tiny buses, or they're sleeping on the floor of their fans. Right, they've kind of opted out of that giant studio system, which may churn a whole shitload of money, but it doesn't necessarily enrich that artist or their fans. Right, so I think in the same way, like things like Chirp, where it's going to cost you something to post, where we know that's going to be a small community of people that value that, or much smaller than the giant Twitter sphere or Facebook sphere. For now,
right? Yeah.
But the value that people find there, so I think that's sad in a way, because it means that we're going to silo critical thinking in a way. And it'll bleed over sometimes, like the Avett Brothers have had a couple of hit records, right? But almost accidentally. Like, it's not like you're going to hear them on the radio very often, but they make good music, right? So in the same way, a thought that happens on a place like Chirp that values critical thinking and value posting will eventually bleed over into the larger world. But I do worry about that we're gonna marginalize critical thinking in some weird way, and then everything will sound like pop music radio, which makes me
if we could just send all the
dummies out of my own car.
Right. If we could just send all the dummies to Parler, then we'll just have it so that Chirp can automatically post to Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else. That's
Corey.
Part of the other reason that I keep trying to figure out, because we think about all this stuff, right? Like how we're not going to have that algorithm. That's rule number one, right? Like the algorithm that automatically flags things that will flick human beings in the amygdala. We will never do that, right? So that's sort of the sort of easiest thing, the lowest hanging fruit, where we can hopefully have some small effect on that, at least on our platform. But what I'm hoping that we can do is like once we have a growing community, I want people like us, content creators, and everybody in this, our extended families, to basically start at Chirp and be able to, if you're going to post on Facebook, if you're going to post on Twitter, all you have to do is post on Chirp, and you can set it to automatically do it, right? And then that way, like, we could still take part in those places, but the conversation will be where we are managing it in our community, and we can have a say about how that gets done.
I like that.
I don't mean to be pedantic, but it's parlay, not parlor. It's yeah.
Well, that makes it so much more adorable.
Yeah.
And I can judge it much harsher now that I know that this parlay. You fucking pricks. Wow.
So let's go to comments for that. Fred said, education has changed dramatically in the last 30 years. While it was once about exploring ideas, and now it's pointless testing and data that prove nothing about the abilities of our students. I can't disagree with that. But I think that some of that's almost inevitable as school systems get larger and school populations get larger, right? That's the crux of that. We haven't scaled up the number of teachers, the teacher to student ratio, to make that possible. You only have so many hours in a day. So I think that's almost an inevitability. But like Corey went back to the our education system is geared towards making industrial age automatons. People that can read and write are easier to train, and people that can do basic math are easier to train to use heavy equipment and tools. Therefore, that's what we're going to teach them. So we're teaching in the wrong way for the kind of people we want to build.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're creating cogs for a machine that doesn't exist anymore.
Right. At best, we're creating engineers, not free thinkers. At best.
Right.
So the imaginative thinkers almost happen in spite of the way we educate.
Right.
So
it's a good question. I do think what you said earlier about how much time is required of people these days. The growing commute times, which I guess isn't so much of an issue now that everyone's working from home. All the non-essential people, of course. There is a certain, silencing effect that just the day-to-day struggles puts onto people. I do think, I'm not necessarily a what do they call him, neo-Hobbiton or whatever, who thinks that, life in the past was that much more grand or anything. But, the average working day...
Was that like a Tolkien-esque kind of
thing?
Like,
I need to go and see exactly what the term was, but that's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah,
I can see that. Well, he glorified an agrarian, peaceful. The Shire was his ideal.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting.
Yeah, and you get some pushbacks from some types on the internet who believe that there's like just people who are glorifying agricultural society, and if you actually lived in there and the toil that you would say something completely different. Yeah, especially. But at the same time, you did have like the founding fathers. You can spend a lifetime researching the philosophies behind the founding fathers, and people do. I mean, Alexander Hamilton blowing up recently. People had time to sit in coffee shops and discuss things intellectually, philosophically. Is that
when you say people, you mean landowners with slaves?
Landowners with slaves.
Well, okay, but John Adams doesn't necessarily fall into that category. He's a guy who ran his own farm, right? He did have paid employees, right?
Right. So a landowner.
Yeah, absolutely. There was leisure time.
Mostly with people that were either employed or slaves.
Yeah, I'm certainly not defending why Thomas Jefferson had all that time on his hands.
Right, just gentry is my point, right? Because
Right.
like the gentry now, like we have the same thing.
Yeah, well, right? Newton is a great example of that. Guess why Newton had all that time to play around with physics? Because he was a gentleman. He had no job, no responsibilities except to do whatever he wanted, and what he chose to do was teach us how to put rovers on Mars.
Yeah, and this is what Scott Santens calls the externalized cost of poverty.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Scott Santens is the shit. Fred Eater said President AOC and President Yang both end up chirping often in the future. That's good to know.
Yeah. Fred did an amazing podcast a couple of weeks ago, but basically like a future newscast. And he paints a pretty good future, actually, where President AOC is getting shit done.
I do have to get to Janie's comment. She said, I have a Chirp question. If the point is to keep Facebook from tracking you, if you sign into Chirp using your Facebook login, Facebook will be able to track you. Why are you offering this if it's against what Chirp is about? So they will only actually be able to track when you log in. That is totally true. And if you don't like that, you can use the other two options that we have. It's like for us, adoption and pulling people away from the uber stickiness of Facebook and Twitter is priority number one.
So it's an opt-in, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like if you are very concerned with that, you can pick another type of login. And if there's a lot of people that continue to be very concerned about even that, then we will figure out another way to do a login in the future. Yeah, like if that ends up being a problem, we'll solve it.
Yep. Listen to that. There's Fred. If we had UBI, we could all be Newton. That's
right.
My favorite part of the idea is if I don't have to worry 21 days a month about how my rent's going to get paid or if I can eat. That's 21 days that I have to think about other things. And I think some people are going to think about how to be better serial killers, but I think a lot more people are going to think about how to be better human beings, how to improve the lives of other human beings, how to create art and culture around us. Yeah, that's my favorite idea about UBI is giving people the time to be innovative or do whatever, become better golfers, whatever it is they choose to do. The net effect of all those people doing what they want is going to lead to much more passion in our existence. Right?
I agree 100%. And I think that presents this notion that dealing with this issue is a national security interest. Think of how many Americans are dead now. Think of how our ability to trade, travel with other countries that have been able to open up is now stifled. The growth of our country is inhibited by our anti-intellectualism, anti-sciencism. As much as you can tie that to the existence of poverty, one part of our brain is designed. A huge part of our mental faculties are dedicated to the pursuit of seeking out danger and saying, okay, there's a predator coming through the woods. That stayed through us all throughout time, and even today we come home and like sometimes we just sit on the phone and we're like, okay, we need to find the danger. The vaccine's actually not real, and this material is proving it to me. Danger. Reaching a post-scarcity society, reaching UBI will allow people the time. We'll need to have proper teaching and to help people kind of transition into this mind frame to allow people to take a deep breath, kind of approach the world from a new perspective, from a more science-based perspective, and lead us into a better future. There is a national security incentive to do that our country should be talking about, that our Congress people should be talking about, and they're not.
Right.
More people need to listen to Seth. I mean, that's what I got out of that whole thing right there.
Yeah.
That's what I got from that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it's either that or the blockchain. Yeah.
Well, or both, right? I mean, that I think the how I like to imagine the possible end state with where blockchain could go, like that's a possible world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's elements of it that feel inevitable to me, but they certainly are not inevitable in any way, shape, or form, right? And so we have to do. That's why, like, while I like talking about the future and even the semi-distant far future or whatever, we still have to get people out to vote this time, like today, right? It's 94, 95 days left. If you don't know what your voting plan is, turn this the fuck off and go find out right now, right? And then come back, because that we have to have our we have to be walking in both directions at the same time.
What you should do today is sign up for vote by mail if you have not. Today, wherever you are, whatever your state, and find out what the rules are. I know in my county, in my state, it's 3 minutes on the county supervisor of elections website. You can sign up for vote by mail. It won't help you with the primary, which is underway here. We all have our primary ballots in hand, but vote by mail is going to be very, very important.
I believe election. Vote.org can handle just about everybody, if not everybody. I was just there.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
What are we talking about streaming? Donna's asking when it will be streamed, and Elizabeth is saying it's on.
Fauci's testifying to the Senate school opening. That's probably what it is. I'm pretty sure it's on C-SPAN right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Speaking of like positive energy, do you guys want to watch Obama for 2 minutes?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good talk. I'm gonna make that happen. Boink.
Let's honor him by revitalizing the law that he was willing to die for. And by the way, naming it the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, that is a fine tribute. But John wouldn't want us to stop there, just trying to
That's
get
so
back
good.
to where we already were. Once we pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, we should keep marching to make it even better by making sure every American is automatically registered to vote, including former inmates who've earned their second chance. By adding polling places and expanding early voting and making Election Day a national holiday. So if you are somebody who's working in a factory, or you're a single mom who's got to go to her job and doesn't get time off, you can still cast your ballot by guaranteeing that every American citizen has equal representation in our government, including the American citizens who live in Washington, D.C. and in Puerto Rico. They're Americans. By ending some of the partisan gerrymandering so that all voters have the power to choose their politicians, not the other way around. And if all this takes eliminating the filibuster, another Jim Crow relic, in order to secure the God-given rights of every American, then that's what we should do.
So what Obama just did was basically let the Republicans know that we're coming to end them. Like, as you're currently constituted, this smaller and smaller group of white assholes being more and more desperate to accrue a tiny little bit of power onto themselves, you are fucked. We're putting you on blast. We're adding 4 fucking senators. You're just going to have to deal with it because they are, in fact, Americans, right? Ending the filibuster means that the idea that you could hold up anything you want just by running the Senate because you get 2 seats in fucking Idaho when people with, like, what, 50 times the population in California only get 2, those days are over. Like, goodbye now, right?
Yeah.
Like, basically, you know, he's right. Like, the getting the Voting Rights Act reinstated is clearly essential. Like, we need 24 hours after the Voting Rights Act got struck down, because literally 24 hours
And
later,
guess what? It was the same bad actor states. It was Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi,
exactly.
Alabama. You know,
exactly. Like,
immediately.
they instantaneously, they had their laundry list of, we're going to be total pieces of anti-democratic shit, and like just start fucking doing all the things that were explicitly denied in this, because racism is over now, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not. So taking those things and mandating the vacation holiday, the voting holiday, and making sure there's enough by law, making sure that there's enough voting precincts out there. I mean, just look at Georgia, man. And the number of red states where, if you live in black or brown community, you've got 10 times less capacity to vote just in your area, right? It's ridiculous. And so he basically in 2 minutes, they're like, John Lewis is fantastic. If you want to honor them, let's actually make this a democratic republic that has equal representation for everybody.
I'll tell you something else he accomplished yesterday. He threw Joe Biden's hat over the fence. And the analogy is, John Kennedy used to tell a story about his father, Joe Kennedy. And when Joe and his brother were little boys in Ireland, little farmsteads were separated by stone fences that were a little higher than like 6 or 7 feet high. And they used to tease each other. They would run, through a field, and you would take your brother's hat off and throw it over the fence. So your brother had to go over the fence to get his hat, and then you would follow, right? So that the idea being you were challenging other people to do something. And Barack Obama yesterday threw Joe Biden's hat over the fence. He basically, he got people really charged up about this, and Joe Biden's going to have to follow up on those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's ridden Barack Obama's presidency into his nomination. So he's going to have to do the things that Barack Obama suggested yesterday, or we're all going to hold him accountable, right? And I think that's a pretty cool thing. I thought that was pretty slick. And I'm sure if John Lewis and Barack Obama had 5 minutes to put their heads together quietly, leaning forward in their chairs, talking to each other. That's what John would be telling Barack to do.
In Biden's credit, I think all of that stuff was already in his platform. But I mean, it's in his platform and people want it done now. So that's going to be a whole other thing.
The galvanizing effects of a speech like that is crucially important. I often find myself wondering, and I know that the civil rights movement's probably beyond both of y'all's experience, but why do we not have voices that, like Martin Luther King Jr., like Representative Lewis, that are really able to, you look back in history and you say, like, these people were fundamental. It feels like we don't really have that right now. And it's not that people aren't speaking loudly. It's just like there is not a face to a movement that really galvanizes people. Why is that? I kind of
think we do. Like, here's the thing. When I go back and I read about how Martin Luther King was perceived in the moment and how John Lewis was perceived in the moment, the vast majority of Americans disagreed and discounted what they were saying. It's viewing, looking back at them, even from 5 or 6, even in the 70s, looking back at them, they look very different than they did in the moment, right? And I think those people are probably speaking right now, and we just haven't recognized yet why what they said was important. In the same way that when Jules Verne wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, right, nobody thought of it as prophetic, but with 100 years of hindsight, you look at what Jules Verne wrote, and you go, holy shit, he predicted a whole bunch of. So I think that may be what's happening. I really think that Stacey Abrams is 10 years from now. That's who we're going to be talking about in this fashion. Like, she is, voter turnout in the Georgia primary, this most recent primary, despite all of the horrifically bad gerrymandering and voter suppression that's going on, was higher than it was in 2018. Right? So that work is getting done at the ground level, and I don't think the vast majority of Americans are going to see it. We pay close attention to what she does because we think she's awesome, but I think a lot of people are going to be late to her, right? And so I think that probably Ta-Nehisi Coates, I think there's a few African-American voices that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to be going, But I think the other factor is that they were preachers, right? There was a preaching ethic and a preaching, what's the word I want to use? Like, what formed their way of speaking was great pulpit speakers. Right. They were preaching about emancipation. They were preaching about voting rights in a way that secular people don't really learn how to have that emotional impact on people. Right. And I think that, the cutesy story about John Lewis preaching to the chickens, well, he was practicing at age 9 and 10 to be the speaker, the youngest speaker at the March on Washington at the Washington Monument, right? He was practicing for that moment from the time he was 8 or 9 years old. So when he got to that podium at age 25, 24, I can hardly credit how amazing he was in that moment, but he was practicing for it. And he learned what he learned from listening to really great pulpit preachers in the South. So, that's my kind of view on that.
That's a really good point. They were amazing orators, and it was only recently that I actually, I guess my history classes failed me in high school, that I heard Frederick Douglass's speech on the hypocrisy of, freedom on July 4th, and it's like I hear that, and the words infect your brain in such a foundational way. You hear Martin Luther King's speech on the steps of the reflection pool, was it? Yeah. And it's like the words are transformative to the point that it changes minds and hearts. And I'm looking for that right now, and maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places. Like you say, it's happening now. You see it in hindsight. I see.
Right. And there's absolutely, Jonah's right. There's some suppression going on. Those voices, the federal government is much better at suppressing those voices than they were. They learned a lot from the civil rights movement. They applied it to the American Indian movement in the 70s, where they crushed that movement by vilifying and making terrorists out of people like Leonard Peltier. So there's that. But yeah, I think those voices are there. And I don't know. I think we're in a moment right now. I think John Lewis's death may bring us a really cool moment.
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't let this one go by without reading it, but even during the civil rights movement, the black leaders didn't let black women speak. Thank you.
Absolutely
for that,
true.
Virginia. Yeah, so, it's a thing. It's a thing. Hey, do you guys want to see something super depressing? I know everyone.
Oh, yeah, please.
They're like, yeah, show us more depressing shit, you fucking asshole. And then, of course, I will. Whee! And that's what, for the lay people, you call a parabolic curve.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Anyways, so that's
And speaking of the science and depressing news, just this morning it's being reported that, as feared, ever since the White House guidelines or procedural changes occurred, they're moving data reporting responsibilities from the CDC to the HSS. It does appear to seem that data is not winding up in the ways it should be. Like, state websites are reporting numbers, and the data that's being reported by the HSS are completely different. And it's
shocking.
We've got an economic impact group that got started by actually a bunch of cryptocurrency nerds on Facebook, and this, I think it was about a week and a half after that cutoff, they started posting curve graphics that basically show what the angle of the curve was on the ascent. Nothing at all changed on the ground. The second that they mandated that all the information had to go to the White House, it flattened the curve. Like, literally, like that day, like you could see it, like night follows day. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's obscene, and it's not like everybody didn't know it was coming, right? Like anything coming out of the White House, you have to assume is utter bullshit, because I mean they're just gonna fucking take a Sharpie to it, and then that'll be it.
And let me guess, that was predominantly done in redder states, Texas, et cetera, the states that Trump is desperately trying to win. I saw a graph that showed, like, in blue states, you still kind of saw the curve as it was going, because blue states, if it goes up, and red states, it goes down. That's even better for the narrative that the White House is. Yeah.
Now, does that shock me? No.
Yeah. I mean, we're about to see what an unmitigated disaster in a pandemic will look like. You think about the Spanish flu. You think about how different our medical treatment is in today's age. I mean, even accounting for the change in population, over the course of its worst impact, Spanish flu killed 600,000 Americans, 5 million people worldwide. We're at 150,000 deaths in 6 months right now. We're gonna reach some insane numbers considering the BS that is happening right now, and a lot of people are going to die.
Unless something dramatic happens before the election, we'll see Spanish flu numbers.
Yeah. I know for a fact, by my birthday, August 15th, we're going to see probably 200,000 deaths if it's continuing this curve.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, do we want to close out today with the inspiring words of John Lewis?
Yes, please.
Fucking A. Like times 100.
All right, I'm going to read this, and I'm warning you now. It's 10:51, and it's not going to be too long into it before I have to pause for a second and collect myself, because just thinking about having read it last night's getting me choked up. Apparently, a few days before he died, John Lewis put pen to paper and left us a message. Well, my time here has now come to an end. I want you to know that in the last days and hours of my life, you inspired me. You filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American story when you used your power to make a difference in our society. Millions of people, motivated simply by human compassion, laid down the burdens of division. Around the country and the world, you set aside race, class, age, language, and nationality to demand respect for human dignity. That is why I had to visit Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, though I was admitted to the hospital the following day. I just had to see and feel it for myself, that after many years of silent witness, the truth still marches on. Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rayshard Brooks, my Sandra Bland, and my Breonna Taylor. He was 14 when he was killed, and I was only 15 years old at the time. I will never forget the moment when it became so clear that he could easily have been me. In those days, fear constrained us like an imaginary prison, and troubling thoughts of potential brutality committed for no understandable reason were the bars. Though I was surrounded by two loving parents, plenty of brothers, sisters, and cousins, their love could not protect me from the unholy oppression waiting just outside that family circle. Unchecked, unrestrained violence and government-sanctioned terror had the power to turn a simple stroll to the store for some Skittles or an innocent morning jog down some lonesome country road into a nightmare. If we are to survive as one unified nation, we must discover what so readily takes root in our hearts that could rob Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina of her brightest and best, shoot unwitting concert goers in Las Vegas, and choke to death the hopes and dreams of a gifted violinist like Elijah McClain. Like so many young people today, I was searching for a way out, or some might say a way in, and then I heard the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on an old radio. He was talking about the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. He said we were all complicit when we tolerate injustice. He said it is not enough to say it will get better by and by. He said each of us has a moral obligation to stand up, to speak up, and to speak out. And when you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state. It is an act. And each generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community, a nation and world society at peace with itself. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed you can lose it. You must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved in this soul-wrenching existential struggle for a very long time. People on every continent have stood in your shoes through decades and centuries before you. The truth does not change, and that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements stretching across the globe because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploitation of others. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest call of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. In my life, I have done all I can to demonstrate that the way of peace, the way of love and nonviolence is the more excellent way. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring. When historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say that it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind. Walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide. John Robert Lewis.
Powerful. His passing is going to be missed by so many, but his legacy is going to be felt strongly in the next few months. Yeah,
he's still here. I mean, I'm sad in a way, but in another way, I'm electrified by what he asked us to do. And I got asked by him personally to do it a couple of years ago on a conference call, and I will never ever forget how amazing that was. So, yeah, sorry I got a little.
Yeah, sorry, hard denied. Yeah, if that doesn't give you the feels, then you're broken as a person. And sorry about that. So that was almost the end. Seth, I want to thank you very much for hopping by with us. And seriously, like, if you want to come back every once in a while to just like be streaming and have fun and have coffee with us, it's awesome. It's awesome having you around, especially on Fridays when we can do freaking weirdo cryptocurrency, sciencey tech talk stuff.
100%. I need more information in that field, and I think being in more of a conversational format will help me because I'm feeling driven recently. Even before Lewis's passing, I don't think that I could define my podcast as quote unquote good trouble because I just don't know if it has that kind of a reach or not. I don't know if there are better and stronger things that I can be doing, but this I do feel like is the best way that I can use whatever skills God has given me to try and create change in the world around me. And so yeah, I would love to be back on the show to help kind of foster the reopening of my channel to help me do the things that I'm wanting to do. I'm going to be interviewing with Blair Walsingham, she's running for District 1 in Tennessee. That's the same district, Sevier County. Some terrible fires happened a couple of years ago, and Dolly Parton actually created a fund, the People's Fund, the Families Fund, gave out $1,000 a month to all the people who were devastated by these fires in Appalachia. So we have, we have a pretty interesting opportunity, I think, with Blair, even though the odds are stacked against her. And I hope that interview will be the start of my ability to be a platform for new voices causing change, and eventually even reach Yang himself to have him on my channel. And I think that can all start with the platform that you've given me here today. So thank you so much.
Glad to have you.
It'll happen. All right, I'm going back to the well one more time.
Walk with the wind.
Right?
Walk with the wind, brothers and sisters.
Thank you guys very much for joining us today. So we're going to be back on Monday. Hopefully with some fraction of this level of cool.
Still a better dancer than me, even at that age. That's amazing.
Oh, I'm sorry I didn't catch that. I just wanted that to be the last.
No, that's good. It's better. It's better that way.
Yeah. No, but still, that was good.
Oh, man. Thank you guys so much again. I hope you all have been holding up pretty well in the past few months. It's been a difficult few months.
Oh, shit.
I couldn't be better.
Hold on. I missed a major league opportunity there.
Yeah, everything is fine. This is fine. Thanks, Seth. It was good to see you, man.
You guys as well. Yeah, reach out to me if you guys have another opening and you want me on. Just let me know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go build a workstation back there in the corner.
Do it.
Do it.
Pieces are there now, so yeah,
It's fine.
be a little more studio-like in here by next couple of days.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get my hands on a DSL camera hand-me-down, except whatever platform you're using right now, this browser thing, of course it didn't work, so I had to break out all the old stuff and everything, but yeah, I'm working on my own workstation today as well, so good luck with that.
Nice. I want to find a way. I know there's some software that'll do it, but my Mevo Cam, I would love to get my Mevo Cam so it's controllable using a PC instead of a phone and start using that. But I got a good webcam now, so I'm good.
Awesome.
Wow, this is a emotionally exhausting show.
It is.
Yeah.
11:01 and I'm already feeling
Except-
exhausted.
Except I have nowhere to nap. Like all my couch pieces are pushed over into the corner, so I'm gonna go reassemble my house.
All right, sounds good, y'all.
Yeah,
Y'all take it easy.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me.
Like, come back in a couple weeks. We'll just set it up in advance.
Okay.
Because we love having you around. You fucking class up the joint.
Awesome. I'll send you a message and you just let me know. All right, take it easy.
And yeah, if you need guests for yours, and just let me know. I'm more than happy to come on.
I'll probably take you up on that offer pretty soon. All right,
Cool,
sweet.
cool.
Have a good one.
Bye,
Bye.
brother. Ciao.
All right, that was the end of coffee, #coffee with Corey. I don't know if I'm going to get my video capture to work here or not. We may or may not. Thank you guys so much for joining in on my kind of reopening episode interview/podcast with the group. I wanted to say thank you so much for the people who have still, stayed around and, kept in touch and followed. I know that I went off the grid there for a little bit, and there's a variety of reasons for doing so that I'll probably get into in a quick update video that I'll upload here in a little bit, hopefully. But I just want to let you guys know that I have not stopped thinking about the channel and thinking about ways to grow it in the post-Yang era. And hopefully I'm going to have some pretty cool things coming along. So keep in touch, stay tuned, follow me on my Twitter @DividendReport. Follow me here on YouTube, make sure the bells ring and notified. And I will see you all before too long. Make sure to treat yourselves well. Love yourselves. Spend some time in some green, surrounded by green today. It'll help. It really will. Do a quick stretch too. It'll wake you up. All right, that's all for me today. You guys have a good one.